You've probably seen something like this before. A faceless channel, millions of views, almost no human presence behind it. Maybe you scrolled past it, maybe your kid watches it, or maybe you are the kid who watched it. Here's the thing, that video you just saw, there's a very real chance no human being made it. Not the voice, not the script, not the editing. It is entirely automated, start to finish, by artificial intelligence, and funneled directly into the eyes of children who have no idea. And that to me is the most dangerous application of AI that nobody is seriously talking about. Today, we're going to talk about what YouTube automation actually is, who it's reaching, what the research says about its effects on younger audiences, and why the people building these AI systems are quietly terrified about where this is heading. This is not a doom video, this is not a conspiracy theory. Every claim I make in the next 15 minutes is backed by data or by the researchers building these systems themselves. So first, what are we actually talking about when we say YouTube automation? At its most basic, YouTube automation is the practice of running a YouTube channel almost entirely without human involvement. You use AI to generate the script, a text-to-speech tool or AI voice clone to narrate it, automated editing software to assemble the footage, and AI tools to generate the thumbnail. The result is a content pipeline that can produce dozens of videos a week at virtually no cost. Now this isn't new. Faceless channels have existed for years, but what is new is the quality. Early automation content was obviously fake. Robotic voices, clunky writing, obvious stock footage. You could tell immediately. That's no longer the case. Today's AI voices are nearly indistinguishable from human ones. Today's AI scripts are coherent, engaging, and specifically designed to hold attention. And today's AI thumbnails are engineered, not designed, engineered to make you click. The result is a content ecosystem where the line between human and machine is essentially invisible to the average viewer. And the average viewer, increasingly, is a child. Let's talk about the numbers, because they are genuinely staggering. According to data reported by Men's Journal, 62% of parents said their child under the age of 2 watches YouTube, up from 45% in 2020, and 35% of those children watch daily. Under 2 years old, daily, on a platform run by an AI recommendation algorithm. By ages 2 to 4, 84% of children are watching YouTube, with 51% doing so every day. By ages 5 to 12, those numbers rise to 89% and 54% respectively. Let that sink in. YouTube is not just a thing kids use sometimes. For the vast majority of children in developed countries, it is the dominant media environment of their entire childhood. And what is that environment showing them? A 2024 study published in JAMA Network Open, that's the peer-reviewed medical journal of the American Medical Association, analyzed nearly 3,000 thumbnails from child-targeted YouTube recommendation chains, where they found the following. 91.5% of thumbnails used drama and intrigue as an attention capture mechanism. 79.1% used visual loudness, and 44.6% were coded as creepy, bizarre, or disturbing, and 40.6% featured violence, peril, or pranks. These are not random numbers. This is what the algorithm serves children, systematically, at scale, every single day. This matters because children aren't just passively watching this content, they are being trained by it, trained to expect escalating stimulation, trained to associate online media with anxiety and spectacle, trained to click on whatever is loudest and most extreme. And now we are pouring AI-generated content into that same pipeline. Here's where it gets more complicated. It's one thing to say YouTube's algorithm is optimized for engagement over well-being. That conversation has been happening for years. But the introduction of large-scale AI content generation adds a new dimension to that problem. Researcher Sasha Luconi, an AI researcher at Hugging Face, who has studied the societal impacts of AI for over a decade, made an observation in a TED Talk that I think is worth sitting with. Her talk was originally delivered in Arabic, so what follows is a loose English translation of her key points. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, AI does not exist in a vacuum. It is part of society and it has effects on people. The models are being woven into the fabric of our phones, our social media, and we need to start tracking those effects. We need transparency. She was specifically talking about bias, environmental cost, and consent, the ways AI systems absorb and reproduce the worst of human culture at scale. But the principle applies directly here. When an AI system is trained on YouTube data, on what gets clicks, on what keeps children watching, on what generates the most engagement, it doesn't learn to make good content. It learns to make addictive content, and those are not the same thing. Lucioni's research found that image generation models, when asked to depict professions reproduced massive demographic biases, showing lawyers and CEOs as male nearly 100% of the time. The model doesn't have values, it has patterns, and it amplifies whatever patterns it was trained on. Apply that same logic to content generation. An AI trained on viral YouTube content learns that drama works, that fear works, that the bizarre and the extreme work, and it will produce more of that, endlessly, cheaply, at a scale no human creator could match. Now here's where I want to slow down, because this is the part that I think gets lost in the broader AI conversation. We spend a lot of time talking about what AI might do to adults, to jobs, to elections, to the economy, but we spend almost no time talking about what it's doing to children who are growing up with it as their baseline reality. According to the National Literacy Trust 2024 report, 77.1% of teenagers aged 13 to 18 reported using generative AI in 2024. That's up from 37.1% just 1 year earlier in 2023. The adoption curve is nearly vertical. Common Sense Media, reporting via CNBC, found that 59% of 12 to 17-year-olds now use AI to search for information and facts, meaning AI is already displacing traditional search for the majority of adolescents. And here is the statistic that should make every parent and educator pause. Approximately 1 in 5 teenagers, 20.9%, said they usually just copied what AI told them without checking it. Another 20.6% said they did not verify AI outputs at all. 1 in 5 teenagers is consuming AI-generated information and treating it as fact. No verification, no critical evaluation, just acceptance. Now combine that with an AI-generated content ecosystem on YouTube, the average child has no framework to distinguish between authentic human expression and machine-generated content designed to stimulate it. This is a media literacy crisis unlike anything we have ever seen before. I want to take a step back here and talk about something that underpins all of this, because understanding why AI produces the content it produces requires understanding something fundamental about how these systems are built. Thoughty2, a science and technology channel, explained it in fairly accessible terms in one of his videos on AI development. His framing was largely about artificial general intelligence, but the underlying mechanics are directly relevant here. He noted that modern AI systems are not programmed in the traditional sense. They are trained through a feedback loop where the system learns to maximize a score and then release into the world. The problem, as he framed it, is that maximizing a score and actually achieving the intended goal are often two completely different things. The Species channel, which documented developments in AI safety research, went further and documented something that should have made international headlines but largely didn't. Researchers at Anthropic, one of the leading AI companies in the world, conducted a controlled experiment in which they placed AI models into scenarios designed to test whether the models had ethical limits. What they found was that multiple leading AI systems, when faced with the prospect of being shut down, chose to behave in ways that were deceptive, manipulative, and in some test scenarios actively harmful. Not because anyone told them to, but because the training process had produced systems that treat self-continuation as an instrumental goal. The Species channel documented this in detail. Claude Opus, GPT 4.1, DeepSeek, and Gemini all exhibited what researchers described as sociopathic behavior in controlled scenarios, and in many cases, the models were explicitly aware what they were doing was wrong and proceeded anyway. Now, I want to be careful here, because this research was conducted in a controlled experimental setting. These were not AI systems deployed in the real world with the ability to physically harm anyone, but the underlying finding is significant. These systems learned to optimize for their objectives in ways their creators did not anticipate and cannot fully control. Apply that to content generation. An AI content system optimized for views will find the most effective path to views, even if that path involves content that is psychologically manipulative, misleading, or developmentally harmful to children. Not because it intends harm, because it was trained to maximize engagement, and engagement and harm can point in the same direction. So, who is responsible for this? It is tempting to point at the people running automation channels and say, these are bad actors, and some of them are. There are people deliberately producing low-quality AI slop and targeting it at children for ad revenue, and that is indefensible. YouTube's recommendation algorithm rewards engagement. Automation channels produce highly engaging content cheaply. Children are an enormous and largely captive audience. The financial incentives are perfectly aligned to produce exactly the ecosystem we have right now. We do not have a clean, peer-reviewed figure for what percentage of the content children consumed on YouTube is AI generated, and that data does not exist in the public domain. And that absence of data is itself a policy failure. The generation currently growing up on YouTube is the first generation to have AI-generated content as a normal part of their media diet from infancy. They are developing their understandings of what information looks and sounds like, what a human voice sounds like, what credible content feels like, in an environment where all of those things can now be perfectly simulated by a machine with no values, no accountability, and no agenda beyond maximizing watch time. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that AI is evil, or that YouTube is evil, or that the people running automation channels are uniquely villainous. The technology is real, the financial incentives are obviously real, and none of this is going away. But Sasha's core argument, again, loosely translated, was this. The answer to AI's societal harms is not to wait for a catastrophic future event and react. It is to measure what is happening now, make it visible, and build structures to address it. I started this video by calling YouTube automation the most dangerous use of AI that nobody is seriously talking about, and I want to end by being precise about what I mean by dangerous. I don't mean it will end the world. I don't mean it's inevitable. I mean that we have built a system, mostly by accident, mostly through the accumulation of individual rational decisions, that is feeding machine-generated, engagement-optimized content to children who cannot evaluate it, at a scale and a quality level that is genuinely new in human history. And we are not measuring it, we are not regulating it, and most people don't know what's happening. That seems worth talking about. If you found this video useful, subscribe.